I think we can start now.
Is it showing the recording?
Yes, ma'am. It's showing, ma'am.
Okay, not here. Okay. Now you can start, Rasmeet ji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we start with the counseling session of today, I would request all the participants to please mute yourself and keep your videos also off. Otherwise, it creates a disturbance when I'm taking a class. Okay, so I'm sharing my entire screen again. I hope it is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So as I just said that we will be talking about grievances today in today's counseling session. So first, let me make you understand what is this concept of grievance. Grievance is basically said to be any kind of a discomfort or a dissatisfaction which an employee has in the organization, which may be factual or even which can be something which is not real. So it may be that it is just imaginary. Now, taking an example here to make this concept more clear to you, suppose if I say I am an employee working in one of the organization and I have a grievance related to, let's say, timing of my institution. Now, this may be a grievance, a discomfort or dissatisfaction, which I may be having as an individual person, but that is not something which the other employees in the organization also have the same kind of feeling. Maybe the time which is decided by the management is very apt, and it is something where they are not asking the employees to work extra, or maybe they are asking to work more than the regular timing which are there. बट अगेन एज एन एम्प्लॉय मुझे उस चीज से ग्रीवियांस है, मुझे उस चीज से डिस्कम्फर्ट है, मुझे उस चीज से डिससैटिस्फैक्शन है. इसीलिए मैंने अभी जब बिगिन किया, व्हाट डिड आई सेड, इट कैन बी इमेजिनरी, it can be real. So it is very important for the organization to understand that whatever grievance an employee has in the organization, whether it is actual the dissatisfaction or discomfort what he or she has, or it is just imaginary which is in the mind of the employee. There can be n number of examples for grievances. I can take related to working hours, I can take related to, let's say, the compensation which is given to me. I can take, let's say, related to the ambience, that means the place where I am sitting in the organization. I can have a grievance even with that particular place. So every organization, what do? They have a grievance redressal mechanism. Redress का मतलब होता है solve करने के लिए. उस grievance को solve करने के लिए there is a proper mechanism which is found in every organization where the employee, the grievant employee. Now who's that grievant employee? जिसको उस चीज से grievance होती है, जिसको वो discomfort है. He can go or she can go and register his or her grievances there formally, and can just vent out that particular dissatisfaction or discomfort what he or she has. In this way, if I say that why do management have these grievance handling cells also for those kind of complaints which are just imaginary? Because when that particular complaint is vented out, to the top management, somewhere psychologically the employee feels satisfied that at least I have registered my complaint to the management. Whether action is going to be taken on that, whether it is going to be considered by the management, that becomes something which is secondary. So I hope the meaning of this word grievance is clear to you. There are these 2-3 words which you have even in your study material, which you will be referring later. That is what is dissatisfaction, what is complaint, and what is a grievance. I started with grievance first because the entire unit, that particular block, is on handling, redressing the grievances in the organization. Any kind of a dissatisfaction. Let's talk about the first term which is written there. That disturbs an employee, whether or not expressed in words, is also called as dissatisfaction. That means I am dissatisfied with a particular, again I say, it could be any matter, anything, any area which is disturbing me, which is somewhere affecting my performance. A complaint could be a spoken or a written dissatisfaction. See, if you look at these three words, dissatisfaction, complaint, grievances, they are going to fall into the definitions of each other. So they are somewhere overlapping. If I say a complaint, I can say a complaint is something which is spoken or written dissatisfaction which is brought into the attention of the supervisor. Now let's come to grievance, what I have just explained, that grievance is what? A discomfort, a dissatisfaction, a complaint which is being formally presented to the management, maybe management representative or the management official. Here, management representative means what? Those people who are in charge of that grievance handling cell. So these are the three terms which is very important, I guess, to understand before we move forward with this particular presentation. Going to the next slide, that is, if I talk about the definition part, I'm not reading out the definitions on grievances. You will find that in many of the books also. You will find in many of the content which is available related to the conflict management or industrial dispute. You will find the definition on grievances. Just remember that for grievance, it is dissatisfaction or discomfort of an employee. Another thing which has to be registered here is that it can either be imaginary or it can be real. Now, what are the features of grievances? If we say, so it's kind of a discontentment, it is kind of a dissatisfaction. It may arise due to employment or even due to personal reasons. Now, this is something which says, as I just gave you a few examples a few minutes back, I may have a dissatisfaction related to my salary, related to my working hours, related to the ambience, that means the place where I sit, maybe related with my superior, my subordinates, my peers, maybe the leadership of that particular organization, any area, anything which is disturbing me, with which I am not contented, with which I am not satisfied. This discontentment may arise out of real or imaginary reasons. I've just talked about it, so I think that particular point is clear to you. It may be voiced or unvoiced, but it must have expression in some form. When I say it is voiced or unvoiced, there are many, different, I would say, suggestion boxes also in the organizations where the management asks the employees that if they are not comfortable coming and sharing that discomfort with the management representative or the management, they can just write it anonymously and drop it into these kind of boxes, suggestion boxes, where those discomforts are then considered. So this discontent may be voiced or it may be unvoiced. Generally, grievance is noticeable and traceable to real or perceived non-fulfillment of one's expectation. हम जब भी कहते हैं कि एक एम्प्लॉय को ग्रीवियंस है, तो दैट इज नोटिसेबल एंड ट्रेसेबल टू रियल और परसीव्ड मतलब इमेजिनरी, नॉन फुलफिलमेंट ऑफ वन्स एक्सपेक्टेशन. जब भी आपकी कोई सेड एक्सपेक्टेशन फुलफिल नहीं होती, then you fall into a stage where you might be having grievances. It is also due to personal reasons. I will just come to the second point which I said, either arising from the employment or related to the personal reason. I take an example here. Let's say I'm a person who is who's a kind of an extrovert person, and the kind of job which is assigned to me is of an introvert personality. So maybe I may have a grievance, and that is related to my own personality. That it is not matching, my work is not matching with the assignment or maybe with the personality which I have. So I may have a grievance related to it. So these are all those examples which are said that what are the different features of grievances. Forms I have already spoken, so I'll not go to the forms part. What could be the reasons for grievances? If I say money can be one of the major reasons of grievance. We've called that as economic reasons. That is related to your pay, maybe related to your allowances, maybe related to your incentives, bonuses which are given to the employee. It can also be related to the work environment. I have again given you example कि ambience से लेके आपको grievances हो सकते हैं. वहाँ light proper नहीं है, space proper नहीं है, excessive heat है. So that can be one reason which is, I would say, which is making you dissatisfied. Supervision का मतलब होता है leadership. So if I talk about supervision, that can also be one area. which can lead to grievances of an employee. That means maybe the superiors, I would say, attitude. I could also put that as if suppose there is a team and I'm working with a team leader, so attitude of my team leader, that can also be one area where I might have a grievance. So supervision, in one word, if I say, that is leadership. So when you have problem with the attitude of the leader, that also ends into the grievances. Work group clashes or jealousy or competition. Now, this is again something which might not be related to your employment, what we have just spoken few minutes back. But again, you have a jealousy with a person and you have a grievance, आप dissatisfied हो, आपका competition है XYZ person के साथ in organization and you have a grievance related to it. Healthy competition is always appreciated, but if there is a competition where the management, or rather I would say the employees, they are fighting with each other, or they have certain areas where they are, always bullying each other, so you might have grievances or dissatisfaction in the organization. Other than all these listed reasons, there could be miscellaneous, that means other reasons apart from which are listed, related to maybe the tools and equipments which are given to you, related to the poor maintenance of, let's say, the machinery on which you are working. I can also take an example. Suppose I'm working on a system and that system is outdated. I may have a grievance with that. That is something that the kind of technology on which I'm working, that is outdated. So it is taking a lot of time for me to finish my assignments. So that is the grievance of an employee. Now, coming to what is the effect of grievances in the organization. So it has the effect on production, it has effect on employees, and it has effect on managers. Let us talk about the first one, that is on production. If I say that in an organization you have grievant employees, that means those people who are dissatisfied. Definitely, I guess all of you will agree to me on this कि अगर आपके एम्प्लॉय को grievances हैं, dissatisfaction है, तो the quality of work, what he or she would be doing or would be, like I would say, contributing to the organization, that is going to be very, very low. So somewhere a grievant employee will also affect the production in a negative manner. Whereas if I have a very satisfied employee in the organization, it is going to be that the production of the organization or that particular enterprise is going to be very high. On employees, if I say what is the effect of it, a grievant employee will end up into a situation where they'll have too much of stress, they'll have conflicts, they'll have fights, and the last thing what will happen is, because he is into a state of dissatisfaction, even if he or she could be an asset to you, बहुत अच्छा employee हो सकता था वो आपके लिए, but because he was having so many dissatisfactions which were not registered, which were not heard, and they were not vented, so that person finally will leave that organization and go. So you will lose that particular employee from the organization. So on employees, it does not only leads to one thing, that you will lose that particular employee, but also it is going to affect many things at the employees level, personal as well as professional both. He might have stress related issues, he might have other health related issues, he might be not that productive, he might be ending up with many accidents, he might be ending up with many kind of damages in the organizations, and ultimately it is going to be a loss to the organization. On managers, if I say, that means I'm talking from the leader's point of view. So you will not be able to work as a team. Syncing of the group members will not happen. You'll always have a group where cohesiveness would not be registered. If I say cohesiveness, that means how the members are attracted to each other so that they can work in a same manner or a productive manner. So that could be one of the impacts of grievances. Now, coming to how do you handle these grievances? See, before we come to those points which are listed there, let me just tell you that in every organization, it is the responsibility of the management to have proper grievance handling cells or committees or mechanisms should be there, because if you will not give them that space to vent out their stress, it is going to lead to loss of employee, loss of production, and you might have conflicts. These grievances ultimately turns into what? It turns into big conflicts in the organization. So now let us talk about what are the benefits of handling grievances. If you handle grievances in the organization at your level, you will encourage employees that they can come and talk about any area where they are dissatisfied or discontented without fear. So that creates a kind of a trust between the management and the employee. Second benefit would be that if you have a proper handling of grievances, it is going to provide fair and speedy means of dealing grievances. So if you have a proper mechanism, it will not only speed up the entire process, but the employee would be knowing that if I have something where I am dissatisfied or I am discontented or I am having any kind of a discomfort, I know management is going to, hear to what I have to say. So these fair and speedy means of dealing grievances is going to have the employee who's going to be highly contented. It prevents minor disagreements. Many times what happens, as I just said, that when you have grievances, it would lead to big conflicts in the organization. So at times when you have proper handling of grievances, those disagreements can be handled or prevented at a very basic stage, rather than you say that it has taken a shape of a, let's say, a strike, or it has taken a shape of a big conflict in the organization. It saves employers time and money. Why do we say that it is saving employers time and money? Because if they register their complaint and they try to give to the solution to a real grievance in the organization, they have more satisfied people who is actually going to be now more productive. तो आपके employers के लिए it is going to save time in the later stage. That means when people are happy, they will be more productive. It helps in building organizational climate. I think this point is self-explanatory, which says that when you have a good organization which has a very healthy grievance handling mechanism, it will build a climate, organizational climate for the employees, where people are going to have a very positive feeling in the organization. Any grievance handling procedure in an organization should have the following features. First is fairness, where I could say that biasness should not be there. It should be fair. Whatever is the dissatisfaction an employee has, management needs to find out or figure out what is the problem, why my employee is dissatisfied, even if it is related to the management issues. If they are fair in that, it is going to increase their contentment towards the management, and they're going to be more loyal. Facilities of representation. In a good handle, I would say, grievance procedure, if it is really effective, we have to have facilities of representation. That means it should not be only handled by the top management, but also there should be representation from the departments, where you say that it is not the decision which is taken by or at the end of the management, but it was also where the representations of the employees were there. Now, at this point, I would like to add something more here. We have a concept of collective bargaining, or we have a concept of negotiation also. Collective bargaining, in a very brief manner, I would like to explain you. Collectively, they bargain. That means negotiate on terms, conditions, matters related to employment. Now, this is somewhere that if an employee has a grievance, and it ends, I'll show you that procedure, how does it goes in the organization. So if management tries that, even rather than calling a third party intervention, that is by calling arbitrators or adjudicators, or maybe the conciliation boards, rather than involving them, they try to resolve that particular issue at their end by collectively bargaining on any concern or issue of an employee where he or she is dissatisfied or he or she has registered a complaint. That is also one point of facilities of representation. This should be there in a good handling, grievance handling procedure or system in the organization. Procedural steps should be there. Again, for procedural steps, as I just said, I'll just show you a kind of the flow of the grievance handling mechanism. How does it work? So you will be more clear with this step. That is procedural steps. To brief you now on this, let me give you an understanding. There is a step-by-step procedure that if suppose I, as an employee, I have a grievance, there are two options which I have with me. First is either I will go and register that complaint to my immediate supervisor, and then that goes to the grievance committee, and then from there it goes to the management. Second is that I directly go to the grievance handling committees which are established in the organization, and I register my complaint. So what is the kind of policy which the management is following? That leads to whether you have detailed procedural steps which the employee needs to follow, or it is where you have an open door policy. Now again here, what is open door policy? A vocabulary, enhancing your vocabulary of HR, where it says that employee can directly go to the employer or to the management representatives and can go and address his or her complaints or concerns. So in organizations, many of the organizations, you will find that they have this open door policy. तो वो बहुत ज्यादा टाइम कंज्यूमिंग नहीं होता, rather than you follow so many steps in between where you go and meet the representative, immediate representative, then you go and talk to the committee people, then they will forward that particular concern to the next hierarchy. So to avoid that, what do we have? We have in the organizations open door policy as well. Promptness. Prompt means quick. So if I say that there is any grievance in the organization, a good grievance handling mechanism is said to be which is prompt. That means today if I have a concern, something which is disturbing me, somewhere where I have a discomfort, and I get a solution of it immediately, maybe in a day's time, week's time, so I will be out from that particular discomfort of mine. On the contrary, just imagine that you register a complaint today and it gets answered after a period of 1 month or maybe 3 months. So what happens is that is the time where you increase your stress level also. So for any grievance handling procedure, it is said that it should be fair. You should have facilities of representation, that is employee representation. Not only the management people should be the one who take decision. You should have certain procedural steps. Again, it depends on not lengthy procedural steps, but try to have such procedural steps which make the entire procedure easy. And promptness should be there related to handling of grievances. That means it should be quick enough to answer to the concerns what the employees have. Now, there are certain ways in which grievances are discovered. I'm being very quick on this because there is a lot of things which I would like to share with you related to this block. So any concerns, any questions, or any queries you have which you want to ask me, please write that in the chat box and I will address in the last 10 minutes. Okay, so one of the way in which we say that an employee's grievance is discovered. Discover का मतलब होता है आप कैसे find out करते हो, identify करते हो कि employee को grievance है. First way is observation. Observation का मतलब क्या होता है? Observation means, suppose I am one of the employers in any of the organization and you all are employees with me. And I know what is your working efficiency and I'm observing you, let's say from last 5 years or let's say 2 years of time, any time span which I take. As an employer, when I'll be observing you, okay, there is a change in your, pattern of work. There is a change in your, let's say, quality of work. There is a change in your attitude. There is a change in your behavior, and not positive, but it is something which is negative, which is observed. Maybe you are getting irritated. Maybe you are shouting without any reasons. You are starting, you are the one who's initiating conflicts, fights. So this is one way of understanding that employee has a grievance related to any issue in the organization. Now again, whether it is real, whether it is imaginary, that becomes a secondary thing. But one of the way to discover grievances by observation. Good leaders, effective leaders, they observe their employees and their behavior and then draw conclusions that this is, the reason, or this is something what we have observed in past few days. Your behavior has changed, your attitude has changed, your productivity has changed. Second is grievance procedure. Any concerns? Okay, so coming to the second one, that is a grievance procedure. I would be talking about the entire grievance procedure in the coming slide. So I'll show you the grievance procedure, which is tentative, which is followed by few, I would say most of the organizations. Again, it is not compulsory कि हर organization का एक ही जैसा grievance procedure होगा. हो सकता है procedural steps बहुत ज़्यादा हो सकता है procedural steps जो है उस grievance handling mechanism में they are very very few steps are there when the management is addressing the grievances of the employee. Open door policy, I have just explained you what is an open door policy. This is also in your study material also, these points are there. So when you will go through this entire thing, you will be able to connect with what I have said in the class. Open door policy means what? As I just said, where employee can directly go and reach to the management representatives or the top management. So they don't have to go as per the different procedures, step by step as per the hierarchy, but it is where they can address their issues, concerns, complaints directly to the management. It saves time. It is very prompt. It is at times when we find that the kind of grievances are redressed in a very quick time period, and we find that it is really very effective. The drawback of this policy is, let's say I have 1000 people who are working with me. So in a large organization, if I have this open door policy, every day I would be having n number of employees who would be coming directly to the management with their grievances related to n number of things. So at that time, it is said that it is going to be that management spends a lot of time only resolving the grievances of the employees. So that is the reason. What do? They have different procedural methods in which the grievances are redressed at a lower level. So what do? अगर grievance lower level पे resolve हो सकता है, so grievance procedure से it gets resolved at that particular level itself rather than the matter going to the management. Next way of discovering grievances is through exit interviews. Now, what is an exit interview? Exit interview is when the employee is leaving the organization. I would say the good organizations which are there, they conduct these exit interviews. That means an interview with the employee who is leaving the organization and going. At that particular time, when he or she is leaving the organization, the manager tries to know from him or her what was his or her concerns, what was that thing which he or she felt that it was the areas of discomfort, or what were those areas which they want that the management should work on or should be improved in the organization. So it is kind of, I would say, critical analysis of the organization in the exit interview. And as the employee is also going, so he is now more vocal, he is more honest, he is, he does not has that fear that I'll not be promoted or I am going to be somewhere marked for my words or for my suggestions which I give. So he is more honest in that particular interview. So it is a kind of a critical analysis of the organization. Last point which is mentioned there is the opinion survey. Opinion survey is a kind of survey which is conducted from the management's end. What do they do? Not very regularly, but they try to get the voice of the employees in an organization. So they conduct opinion surveys where they have certain list of questions and they keep on asking, or rather they keep asking the employees, how do they feel about, let's say, their job, their salary, let's say related to the leadership, let's say related to ambience, all those areas where they feel that the employee might have a grievance or a dissatisfaction. Here in this opinion survey, if they have a response which is on majority, like majority of them, I take an example again, have a issue or concern related to, let's say, salary. So in an opinion survey, the management or the organization, the organizational heads will come to know that salary is one reason which is creating a kind of a discomfort in the mind of the employees. So they might rework on the salary structure of that particular organization. That is what an opinion survey is. Now, coming to what are the prerequisites of a grievance procedure? If you want to have a grievance procedure in the organization, you need to confirm with the statutory procedure. There is a set statutory procedure which is mentioned, or which is given under, which is given by the government, that if you have a factory, you have an industry, so under the Industrial Dispute Act, there are statutory procedures on grievance handling. It should be simple. It should not be ambiguous. So we can say it should be unambiguous. That means clarity should be there. Ambiguous ka mean matlab hota hai that it is, unclear. So if I say it is unambiguous, I say that it is more clear in terms of that to whom I need to register my complaint, whom I need to go and address my problem. That clarity employee should be having if he or she has any grievance. Promptness we have already talked about, and training should be given to the grievance handling representatives. They should know that if an employee has a grievance, how well they need to give the solution to the employees. Like supposingly, if there is a procedure where it is that 24 hours are going to be considered, or it will take another 48 hours for the management to go, revert back to the employee. So how do they need to communicate that thing to the employee in a manner that it is going to take this much of time? So how the employee needs to be patient, that okay, I have a grievance, I have registered that, and now it is going to be the management which they are going to revert me back on my issues. So that training needs to be given to the representatives who are actually redressing the grievances of the employees in the organization. Last point, there is follow up. If you have a grievance procedure, it is very important to have a follow up. Follow up means that if an employee had any such grievance or XYZ grievance in the organization, what was the action taken? क्या उस पे action लिया गया? क्या timely action लिया गया? Whatever action was taken, is the employee satisfied with that particular decision, or the I would say statement which the management has given to that particular discomfort or dissatisfaction which the employee had? So that also should be one of the prerequisites of a grievance procedure. I repeat again, you should have a confirmation with the statutory procedures. It should be simple. It should not be ambiguous. Promptness should be there. Training should be given to the representatives, and follow-ups should be taken. Timely follow-ups should be taken, so that the employee gets his or her grievance redressed on time. Now let us come to what are the steps in grievance redressal. I would rather going to this slide, I would like to show you something. Just give me a minute's time, so then I can show you the exact grievance procedure. By the time, if you have any questions or concerns, I would request you to please write that in the chat box. And I am just showing you one slide of the grievance procedure. Okay, so as you see that slide, just let me know. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just start from here. That is the grievant employee. So we will be going from bottom to up approach. Okay. So let's start with the grievant employee. Wherever NS is written, that means not satisfied employee. So let us start that there is a grievant employee in the organization. Now I think all of you would be very clear with what when I say grievant employee, तो वो कौन होता है? So he has two options. First option is that he goes to the foreman. That means the immediate supervisor who is there. Then that particular, we are talking about from the lowest level. Okay, so that is why I'm saying the grievant employee goes to the foreman. That is the next level. If he is not satisfied here, then he has the chance to go to the supervisor. Now, what is the time period which is listed or which is given? That is the first stage, and the answer
Rasmeet
needs
ji,
to be given within.
you can put your slides in presentation mode.
Ma'am, it is basically a PDF document.
Okay.
Yeah. Is it not clear, ma'am?
It's clear. I just wanted more clear. That's why.
Acha. Ma'am, it's a
clear.
PDF document.
Otherwise, it's clear.
Okay.
No
Okay.
issue.
So what happens is grievant employee goes to the foreman. That is the first stage. And here it is said that the answer from the foreman needs to be given in the time period of 48 hours. That means within 2 days of time. Second option, what the grievant employee has, that he can go to the departmental representative. Now, who's a departmental representative? In every organization, we have different representatives of different committees. And I think those who are working, you will be more able to connect with me that we have a discipline committee, we have a grievance committee. Suppose if it is a education sector, so we have n number of other committees also. Cultural committee, let's say a committee which is taking care of the curricular and the co-curricular activities and so on. Similar manner, in every department, what happens is that grievance committee which is established by the management, they have representatives from every department. What is the role of these departmental representatives? They are the one to whom the complaint needs to be registered by the grievance employee. So rather than the person reaching directly to the grievance committee, see, as I was just talking, procedural steps. So he would be going to the departmental representative and will be registering his or her complaint. So I'm taking it in both the areas, that if a person has a grievance, how does the entire procedure goes? Let's come back to the foreman step, what I was saying. If he is going and approaching the foreman and he is not satisfied, he will be going to the supervisor. That means the next hierarchical person who's there in that particular department. Suppose supervisor को कोई grievance है, तो वो directly head of the department के पास जाएगा. He'll not go to the foreman and the next level which is there. Understand it. We are talking wherever a person is at whichever level, he is going to go to the next hierarchy. That is the hierarchy which is above him or her. तो हमने ये assume किया कि grievant employee जो है वो सबसे lowest level पे है, तो he will be going to the foreman, then to the supervisor, and then that complaint will be registered to the head of the department. One way of going. Everywhere where we have NS that is not satisfied, that means if the employee, grievant employee is not satisfied, he can register that complaint to the next level. Okay, so the departmental representative, when he or she knows about that complaint, he is going to share that thing with the supervisor. Vice versa also happens, that if it is going from grievant employee to the supervisor directly, he would be sharing that particular concern which the grievant employee has to the departmental representative. Finally, that particular complaint, either it is going directly to the representative or through head of the department, that particular complaint, if it is not resolved, that goes to the grievance committee. As you will see that flow chart, you will come to know step by step how it is going. And towards the right hand side, it is mentioned that with every stage, what is the time period in which the grievant employee needs to be answered. In the first stage, it was 48 hours. In the second stage, it is 3 days. That means earlier it was 2 days, then it is 3 days. Next is when it reaches to the grievance committee. If it reaches to the grievance committee and still the grievant employee is not happy, not satisfied, not convinced with the solution which the committee has given, he will take that matter to the management. Or we also can call him or her as the HR manager. So the manager who's there in that particular organization, he is going to go through the entire matter, that particular concern, what that grievant employee is, and will try to give him or her the solution for that problem. Here in this stage, the fourth stage, if again the employee is not satisfied, he needs to communicate that decision within 7 days of time. As per manager, this could be the possible solution for that particular problem. अगर ग्रीवियंट एम्प्लॉय सेटिस्फाइड है, वो केस वहीं क्लोज हो जाएगा. दिस हैपेंस एट एवरी स्टेज. अगर सुपरवाइजर ने उसको कोई डिसीजन दिया एंड ही सेटिस्फाइड, ही विल नॉट गो टू द नेक्स्ट लेवल. If head of the department has given him a solution for that problem and he or she is satisfied, the entire grievance gets redressed at that particular stage itself. When does it goes to the next level? When the employee, the grievant employee, is not satisfied. Now here what has happened, we have talked about till the manager stage where the grievant employee is still not satisfied and he takes that particular concern to the committee of union and management representative. This committee of union is where we have different types of committees, collective bargaining also, where you have a union committee जिसमें मैनेजमेंट के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स भी होते हैं और एम्प्लॉय के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स भी होते हैं. They are going to go through that entire concern, issue, grievance of that particular employee and will try to give him or her the solution for that particular grievance. If again at this stage the employee's grievance is not redressed, that is he will be appealing to the management for revision. So he has a chance that or rather I would say he has that particular the kind of understanding that if I am not satisfied, so management is going to reconsider that entire matter, and there comes voluntary arbitration. What is voluntary arbitration? Voluntary arbitration means third party intervention. Now it is not the committee people in the organization. Now it is not the management representative. Now it is not the head of the department. Neither it is somebody who is involved from that particular organization. Now here it is that a third party is involved, to whom we call as a arbitrator. Arbitrator is a person who is involved in the resolving of grievance, and he or she is one who knows about all the laws related to industrial dispute. So he will be considering going through that entire thing and then will be giving his or her solution to that problem. You will be referring your block 4 notes. There you will be finding about that it is mentioned about adjudicators, it is mentioned about conciliation officers, and also it is mentioned about arbitrators. Let me just explain you in a very briefly, in a very small brief manner, that arbitrator is third party intervention. If I talk about the conciliation boards or the conciliation officers, this is again where you have the third party interventions. When a person is dissatisfied by the decision given by the arbitrator, he can go for the appointment of the conciliation officer or the conciliation board. He can request for that. Even if he is not satisfied with the decision which is given by the conciliation officer, the last thing where he has to agree, the employee has to agree, the management has to agree, is the adjudication process, or we call that person as the adjudicator. Whatever is the decision which is given by the adjudicator, that is mandatory to be followed by the employee and by the management. This is what is the entire grievance procedure is all about. I've tried to show you in a kind of step-by-step procedure so that it is clear to you. It is also mentioned in your notes which are there for block 4. So if you have any confusion related to it, you can just go through those notes. I was just reading that. I don't know how many of you have referred that, but very, very detailed notes and app notes are already there for all your units, which is classified as block 1, block 2, block 3, and block 4. So have to do your self-learning by referring to those notes. I think for today, we can end the class here with this particular topic, that is on grievances. I have certain concerns which are mentioned. I'll just go through your questions so that I can answer that very quickly. Okay, there are a few things related to your assignment that is taken care by Smriti ma'am. Okay, so there is a question which is asked by Mayank. Mayank, you want to know about collective bargaining, if I'm not wrong. I'll just try to show you the entire collective bargaining process, because as through the grievance procedure which I have showed you, I guess that will also give you a clarity. So just give me a minute. Okay. I'm sharing the screen again so that you can see the entire collective bargaining process. Is it visible to all of you? Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Let us start with what is the collective bargaining process. If I say, as I said, collectively bargaining. Bargain का मतलब होता है negotiations. So if you have any kind of, an issue where the parties, that is the employer and the employee, they have certain issues on which they are not agreeing or disagreements are there. So both the parties, they will be preparing their negotiations. What are negotiations? Negotiation means they will be working on their areas, that why do they want to have a kind of a negotiation on that particular issue. I take an example. Let's say it is a negotiation related to salary. Okay, and it is employees who are demanding that the salary is very low and it has not been revised in last, let's say, 3 years. So they will be preparing their negotiations. They will be doing certain studies, and they'll come up with that cost of living has increased, inflation is there in the economy. Last 3 years, the company has not increased the salary. They'll talk about that the management is into profits from last 3 years. Still, the salary structure has not been revised. Working timings have been increased, and in number of other areas. So that is a preparation from the employee representatives, those who are going to go for negotiations. Same manner, it will be a preparation which will be done from the management side. So we will be having, like, they will be coming writing their own points. So maybe they will be mentioning that it was a pandemic period, we didn't had too much of let's say profit, it was limited, we had certain layoffs, retrenchments, and maybe they can write that the profit whatever has which is shown in the balance sheet, that has been invested in the other areas. So the management of the company has done certain, let's say, capital investments, and they have certain points on which they are preparing themselves for that negotiation. Second thing, what happens is that when both the parties are prepared, that means employees representative and the employer representative, both of them have their points, they come for bargaining. So they have certain bargaining issue. हमारे इस example में bargaining issue था salary, which has not been revised, let's say, for last 3 years period of time. Then they will negotiate. Negotiate means they are going to discuss upon that, they are going to bargain on that, they will be putting forward their areas, and they'll try to get a common solution for that particular problem. When this negotiation breakdown is positive, what happens is you reach to a particular agreement and you try to get solution to that particular problem. That is a decision box, if you can see that it talks about yes and no. If it is that the negotiation breakdowns do not happen, What do? You try to reach to an agreement, ratify the agreement. What is ratifying? Ratify means changing the previous agreement which was there. So if the negotiation is successful, you try that you come down to a common conclusion. Maybe in the same example which I gave you, that salary was not revised. Let's say commonly they have come up with, maybe the management is demanding for, employee is demanding for the hike of 50% of the salary, and management says that we are not in a position to increase the salary by 50%, but yes, 25 or 30% of salary is going to be revised. So they have reached to an agreement where both the parties are satisfied with that. Ratifying the agreement is the entire salary structure is going to be ratified by increase of 25 or 30%, whatever has been mutually decided by the employer and the employee side. And finally, what happens in the collective bargaining is you administer that particular agreement. That is, that particular agreement is shared to all the employees by the collective bargaining members, those over there. That is what is, I guess, the best example for collective bargaining which I can give you. Mayank, I hope that example will more clarify your concept.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
One more thing, is this idea of collective bargaining more prevalent in public sector, or it is only
No, it is there in the public sector. Mostly we find that collective bargaining thing, these are all government, I would say, ways of resolving disputes. So if I talk about having a like a conciliation board set up, I talk about arbitrator who's appointed, I talk about an adjudicator who's appointed. We have this under the norms of the government. We have proper acts, we have proper sections on this, then only the entire process happens. There are people who are into the roles of arbitrators. They take up as a job of arbitrators. There are people who are playing the role of the conciliation officers to resolve disputes in the organization. There are people who are adjudicators, and their role is to redress the grievances which the employee has. So they are appointed by the government of India when there is any kind of this kind of grievances which happen. See, I would like to conclude here by saying that if there is grievance, what will it lead to ultimately? It will lead to a kind of a situation where management will also suffer, and even the employee is going to suffer, because work is coming for to an end, not only for the employee, that he is not doing or she is not performing his task, so they are suffering, but even the management suffers. So there is a loss of productivity, there is loss of work and waste of time. So both the parties want that internally only, that these issues should get resolved. It is very time consuming, it is costly to have an arbitrator, to have a conciliation officer, to have an adjudicator, because you need to pay him or her a good amount of fees also. They are charging for their services. It's already 7:30, and I have tried that for your block number 4 to brief you about the entire, that thing which is really very, very important. I have addressed the queries which are there in the chat box. Trade unions, Dimpy, you are asking me that can be clubbed it under collective bargaining. Trade unions are basically set up in the organization where we have trade union leaders. Definitely, when I talk about collective bargaining, the representation from the employee side, if I say, we have people who are, the trade union leaders. Maybe I can say we have representations from their end also. So yes, when we talk about collective bargaining and I say that I have a representation from the employee side, so I definitely have the representation from the trade unions side also. Smriti ma'am? Smriti ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, I think we can conclude our class for today.
Okay.
And I hope it was of much use for my learners.
I also hope so. And so many 5-6 learners are entering now. in the meeting.
Okay.
So we'll upload the recordings very soon.
Okay.
I'm on a sick leave from last 2-3 days, so please थोड़ा एडजस्ट कर लीजिए. और we have Dr. Ravindra Singh with us, who will be academic counselor from tomorrow onwards for next 4 days. So I want to invite him because he want to give the learners a message for being prepared for preparations regarding tomorrow's academic counseling. So I invite Dr. Ravindra Singh. Can you hear me, Dr. Ravindra Singh?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Sir,
evening.
Good evening.
Good evening to Dr. Rasmeet Kaur, madam,
Sir, good
and
evening.
all the participants. I am very thankful to you, and you know that at least you have given me this opportunity on the eve, any before actual imparting the counseling. It is my request from the students that it is not a lecture in the class. It is just a counseling how to brush up your syllabus and what out of the stock you want to know, not from your syllabus, not from your book. It is a management class, MBA class, administration class. So what I expect from you that you are a high learned group, you are working somewhere in some organization, maybe public or government, whatever may be. As per syllabus, there are 5 blocks in MMPC4, and I have 4 days. There is lot of computation involved. So what I expect from you that at least the basic definition terms of the accountancy you are knowing. That is my expectation. If not, if somebody having any doubt, then I will clarify your each and every doubt. If 4 days is less, then I will take a further time in between whenever permits me, regional center Bhopal. So I have prepared a material in the way that I have assumed very first day that you are the manager. As ma'am told that how to redress the grievances. And if you are able to redress the grievances, so one of the major grievances is perk and payment, that is salary, what ma'am says. So that how you will redress that grievances on the part of finance, that will be covered tomorrow onwards for next 4 days. So if you expect something special or something specific from me, you can tell me today, or you can inform so that I can add it. Whatever syllabus is there, that I will cover each and every point. But due to the strain of time, 4 days, any 4 hours, productive only 45 minutes per day. So it will not be possible to cover all the 5 blocks.
Sir, I want to interrupt actually.
Yes,
The academic counseling is for, I mean, as per formal academic counseling, and I know it's not restricted to 1 hour.
yes.
Actually, when we organize Google Meet, it automatically takes for 1 hour, and it may extend till 2 and more hours. But we don't, we don't make any foundation like this. We may go beyond 1 hour also.
Ma'am, I am ready to even run for hours together till midnight or next day morning. It depends upon the
I
participants.
just wanted to inform you. Actually, it's not like 1 hour.
Okay, ma'am. No,
It's due to the Google Meet limitations.
if
But
party,
actually, it allows us for more. I mean, if some queries are there, we can definitely take.
okay, no issue, madam. I will be there till the participants are interested. Because once we are not face to
Thank
face in
you.
the physical class, they may get boring, or they may have other assignments, other commitment. So that depends upon their availability and their interest. Till their interest is there, I am there. Let it be whatever time may be. So if any question or any specific
Thank you
things,
very much.
thanks, ma'am. If anything required by participants, please let me know today itself. Otherwise, we are meeting soon tomorrow at 6:30 p.m.
Smriti ma'am? Smriti ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, before I leave my class, I just have a last message, and I would like to thank you and the entire team of IGNU for giving me this opportunity. And I hope all my learners, they might have benefited with some bit of knowledge which I have in this particular area. And if you have any concerns or queries related to this, you can just drop a mail to Smriti ma'am and she will be forwarding that to me. And I'll definitely revert back on that. Thank you so much once again, ma'am.
Rasmeet, even I want to thank you and for taking all these 4 academic counselings very well.
Thank you.
And I wonder, we have not organized earlier any counseling with you, but we'll always we'll keep in touch for next
Thank you so much.
sessions and other programs also. And for this session, if it's required, I'll talk to you again.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear learners.
Ma'am.
So,
Thanks.
so I hope all of you have enjoyed the learning in last 4 days. And for next 4 days, Dr. Ravindra Singh will be there for MMPC004. So you need to be prepared. You need to learn. You need to go through all the study material of MMPC004. And sir, can you just give a hint that which unit you are going to cover tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am. As I have got 2 messages, one from Tanay and Mayank, that if to emphasize to be made on the balance sheet. So that was my focus, that if I go for voucher, general, ledger, trial balance, then it is teaching some BCom or MCom students. So I will start in the inductive methods, starting from balance sheet after giving 3 or formula of debit and credit. So I will cover block 1 and part of block 2, or if participant supports, I can emphasize further complete part 2. I want that my syllabus to be covered in 3 days, so that I can put some fraud related balance sheet, which is the topic of your block 5, that how fraud in financial sector takes. I am being in financial investigation department, so I want to emphasize balance sheet and how this is being manipulated, and that I think it is the requirement of students. So I will cover block 1 entirely. If time permit, block 2, otherwise part of block 2. And further, I am ready with all the 5 blocks. So whatever students want to shift, I will shift it there and there. So there is no issue of bargaining for time.
Thank you very much, sir. And I thank Dr. Rasmeet and Dr. Ravindra Singh and all the dear learners. I hope we can make this journey a successful one, and keep in touch through emails. Right now, I have not replied many of your emails due to some health issues, but I don't think there is any need to worry for you from your side. Please prepare your assignment, submit as soon as possible. And for examinations, as you all know, that June 2022 is the term and exam month for first semester, but it might be possible the dates may change. We will see it very soon on the website. So right now, concentrate on your studies and preparing assignments if you have not yet prepared. So good night from for today. I again thank all the learners and academic counselors, and we can meet tomorrow for next counseling.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants.
Thank you, sir.